Hello guys, welcome to The Angler. Well, we're gonna go talk today about the great fishing that has been given to us. How we doing guys? Sam and Adam back with this week's fishing report for you. Really excited, things are starting to heat up with the spring weather here. We got great weather, that means fish are moving. So I think starting out what most people are still wanting to do in our area is rockfish. So of course, catch and release right now, but it's a great time to get out there. We still have some of these bigger breeder fish around. A lot of fish have been caught in shallow, out on flats in the main stem of the bay. It's a great place to target. If you're shore anglers, this is one of the better times of the year for you guys, because that's where these big fish are. Classic rigs for those are always a bloodworm. For whatever reason, these big breeder fish seem to like a little small bloodworm, but it's a great rig to fish. You can also use things like cut LY or other cut bait, but also lures are prevalent this time of the year. Some of my favorite lures for the shallow water bite is big jerk baits. For whatever reason, the reaction you get on a jerk bait is great when these fish don't want to bite. And a lot of these shallow water big breeder fish we've seen just have really had lockjaw. So fishing something that's unique that they don't see a lot is always a great bet. Of course, if you can get them on plastics, whether that's paddle tails or straight tail baits, is always a good option, but it's been a little challenging to get those fish to eat those. Now the resident fish have really come to their own here recently. Those 20 to 30 inch fish are really becoming more prevalent over the past week or two. And really you're fishing the same baits in a lot of the same locations. You're just kind of sizing down on those profiles, whether you're going from a 7-inch, 8-inch baits down to more like 5 or 6-inch baits. And then these big 5-inch jerk baits maybe down to like 3 to 4-inch baits.
For sure, yeah. And as far as some other stuff that we got going on in the bay right now is going to be catfish. Got a lot of blue catfish out there, a couple whites, a couple channels. But for you guys going out there, it's a hot bite right now. You can check the mousy rivers, the mousy creeks. That's mostly where those fish are going to be hanging out. You can even check some of like your upper bay, main bay shoals and things like that. That's going to be a good place to look for them as well. Mud shad, eels, LY. Remember, if you're using eels, you got to cut them up this time of year. So DNR doesn't think that you're fishing for rockfish. But like I said, those are going to be great baits. We do have like our live line chunking rigs here, but really guys, just a fish finder rig or a high-low rig. Make sure you got circle hooks on there. Just bait them up, cast out, and wait. You can also throw some chum out there if you want. That's something that not a lot of people do. That kind of gets the scent going in the water. Just position your boat up current, let that chum flow through your baits that you have out in the water, and you might attract some catfish in there. As far as white perch, Sammy, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, white perch are in kind of that challenging spot. They're almost in that in-between spot where most of them have finished up on their spawn, and now they're going to start headed back out towards the main rivers in the open bay. This can be a challenging time of the year to catch them because some of the schools are still up, some of them are down. The fish aren't really there in big numbers to your traditional summer areas, but that should be coming in the next week or two. We've got more warm weather on the way, so any of that stuff's going to start heating up. Fishing your small spinners and more moving presentations that we use in the summer months is going to be really productive going forward here. So certainly time to get out. I know the folks over at Jonas Green State Park have started to catch some, which is one of the first areas you start to see them out here in like the main part of our summer spot. So really excited about that. Classic little spinners like road runners and whatnot are always a good option.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of road runners, we'll pop over to the freshwater side for a second here. Crappie are biting really good right now, guys. They're like not quite spawning, but they're getting there, and they're still fired up and feeding. You definitely want to look for laydowns. You still want to look for sort of those like transition zones from deep to shallow. If you have grass, submerged grass and pads, things like that, they could be hanging out in there as well. You can go fish for them in any of your reservoirs up north, or you can go to any of your mill ponds, things like that, and then the upper reaches of your tidal rivers and creeks. But like he was saying, a road runner, definitely a really good option. I know in the past couple weeks we were talking about some little finessier baits for crappie, but as this weather heats up, you can definitely go with something with a blade and reel it through a little bit faster and use it kind of like a search bait. On the panfish side of things, if you guys are going out there and looking to catch some jumbo bluegills, we actually had a guy come in today who caught like a 12-inch bluegill on the eastern shore, which is just unreal to see. And he got it on mealworms, guys. We do sell these preserved mealworms here. They work really, really well. and he just had them on a jig head under a bobber. Any of your ponds and lakes on the eastern shore are going to be a really good spot to hit for those.
Some of those larger mill ponds in like the Salisbury area, whether it's Leonard's or Johnson's, have probably some of the biggest bluegill that I've ever seen, and they're in there really thick. This is a great time of year to get them. They're starting to push up into the shallow water, so you can catch them on, moving baits and things like that. So it's a lot of fun for them right now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then as far as bass and snakehead go, bass are starting to show up on beds with this little bit of warm weather we had. It bumped that water temperature up, kicked them into spawning mode. Not everywhere, but in some places. And if you do see them on beds, guys, they're not really going to be looking to eat. You just want to piss them off. That's kind of the key. So whether you're bouncing like a Ned rig on top of their bed like this, you want them to think that something's trying to get to their eggs. So whether it's a little crawfish like that, if you have a little bluegill profile that you can kind of just hover above their bed, things like that, with like whether that be a paddle-tail swim bait or one of those like Savage Gear bluegill swim baits, things like that. The key is to piss those bass off if you see them on beds, so that they bite out of aggression. As far as snakehead goes, you want to talk a little bit about that, Sammy?
Sure. So most of your tidal water tributaries are really heating up for those fish. The warmer weather we have, the further up shallow they're pushing. Over the past couple of weeks, they've really been coming out of the mud. Some of those big areas that are great for like bait fishing, like DeCourcy Bridge Road, Key Wallace Drive, some of those larger mud flat. Those were really good last week. It's going to start slowing down on that front, and these fish are going to start pushing up to the shallows and grass where it's a little bit easier to target with lures, whether that's topwater frogs or various different topwater weedless profiles. Lots of stuff you can throw this time of the year. Chatterbaits, subsurface baits, and it's really hard to beat just a small swim bait rigged weedless. You can work that just about anywhere. And a lot of times these fish are super pressured over there, guys. I mean, most of these boat ramps are filling up by 9 o'clock where you can't even get in. These fish see a lot of bait, so really more of a finesse presentation can often be the difference for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then as far as some other freshwater stuff goes, we are kind of on the tail end of the shad run right now, but they are still running and you can still catch them. That's hickories and American shads. Remember, you can't keep them, but you can still fish for them. Areas like the Potomac, the Patuxent, those are going to be great places to go and look for shad, and also any of your creeks off of those rivers. When you're going for shad, guys, tandem rig is pretty key. We do them here with like a little jig and a little spoon, but you can do 2 jigs, anything like that. Again, that's another species this time of year that's not really going to be biting to feed, but more like biting out of aggression. So make sure if you guys are going after them, you grab a tandem rig for that. In some of those same areas, you might find some rockfish and some catfish. So, if you get bored of catching shad and you want to drop down a jig, you want something that is going to get down through that current, especially in the Potomac area. So like you might want to stay away from a paddle tail and go with a straight tail or a curly tail. And you might need a decently heavy head, like 1 to 3 ounces, especially if you're looking for like a big flathead catfish or something like that. You want to make sure that you're banging the bottom.
So moving down towards the beach, there's a bunch of stuff going on. This is kind of a really good time to surf fish, guys, whether you're all the way down to the south tip of Assateague or working all the way up to Cape May and that area in between. So drum have really started to become prevalent over the past few weeks here, especially on the south tip of Assateague and up through there. A lot of baits for them is just a classic drum rig, which is basically just a large circle hook with a short leader going to a little fish finder slide. And there's a lot of baits you can use for these. You'll catch them on stuff from sand fleas, cut peeler crabs, and the best thing it seems is any sort of surf clams you can get a hold of. It can be a little bit challenging to get towards the beach, but call the shops down there, see if you can get a hold of some of those. It can really change your odds. A great backup thing is we sell salted sea clams here, which is really the same thing, but they're salted, so they stay on the hook even better than regular ones. Not sure if they work as well as the fresh, but it's a great option to have if you're headed down towards the beach. Other stuff in the surf, you can catch some flounder. Some of those bigger ones have been caught. Usually just fishing some high-low rigs or even a bucktail with a gulp on the back is always a good bet. I like to go with bigger baits this time of the year. Those fish are pushing up and they haven't really been feeding too much, so bigger baits can often get some big bites. So other than that, rockfish can be caught, especially if you're fishing like the north side from the Delaware up to the Jersey shore. A lot of baits this time of the year are going to be like larger plugs like crystal minnows or Dio-SP minnows, stuff that you can work and cover a lot of water with, as well as some of the bucktails and things like that around the inlets and whatnot.
Yeah, and last thing about the coast, guys, it's not quite happening yet, but keep an eye out for bluefish. They should be here very soon. And doing those, crazy blitzes. So while you're surf fishing, keep an eye out there and see if you see birds diving or big splashes or anything like that. But besides that, I think that about does it for the fishing report this week. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.